Well, after Tuesday this week, fans weren't really sure what to expect in regards to Halo Infinite at Gamescom. However, industry insiders hinted at a Wednesday reveal plus a supposed leaked release date filled the masses with a small measure of hopium. And see how that faith was rewarded. A new trailer for Halo Infinite multiplayer. Labeled the Multiplayer Season 1 Cinematic Intro, this trailer has a number of implications for Infinite and, of course, some lore to break down. And criticize. Come on, you know me. So, without further ado, let's dive in. To start, let's add a bit of context to this trailer, a bit of backstory for the backstory, if you will. In Halo Infinite, we've already seen that the game will be diving headfirst into making your multiplayer Spartan your in-universe avatar, something Bungie first did with Halo Reach's campaign, and 343 continued with Halo 4's War Games and Spartan Ops. Halo 5 technically does this as well, but to a much lesser degree. Halo Infinite is going with a much more Halo 4 style approach as far as we can tell, but recall that Joe Staten did say that our multiplayer Spartans would take up a larger, active role as time goes on. And the one who will guide us on this journey is Spartan Lorette Agrina, the person whose backstory we presumably see play out in this cinematic intro. The trailer itself begins with a shot of London, Big Ben clearly visible in the mid-ground, I'd say, and a Type 57 Phantom? Look, there's going to be a lot of canon issues with this. We'll address all of those at the end, as I have some thoughts. Anyway though, canon aside, seeing 26th century London is really cool, the city a mega metropolis like Mombasa or New Phoenix. And as a brief aside, while it's true that London being invaded during the Battle of Earth has never been mentioned, the fact of the matter is we simply don't know a lot about the invasion of Earth outside of New Mombasa. We know parts of the United Republic of North America were hit, as was Sydney and even Ross Island and Antarctica of all places, but details are still sparse. We know a few places the Covenant hit, but not all of them. Earth suffered casualties in the billions, so it's very likely a lot of places got hit that we just never saw. Moving along, we go to a street-level alley, a young woman trying to stay hidden from Jiralhanae invaders. When we finally get a good look at them, we can see that these Jiralhanae are wearing Banished-style gear with a non-Banished paint job, carrying pulse carbines. The girl runs into a nearby building, and we cut to a familiar sight. Agrina giving a speech to new Spartan 4 recruits, a glimpse of which we got during the multiplayer announcement trailer. She asks the recruits why they're there before we cut back to Earth, the young woman now running along a highway past the remains of battle. The streets themselves are very heavily inspired by Halo 3 ODST's version of New Mombasa, and we can see a familiar car design and even an M808 Scorpion. As she comes around the side of the tank, she's seen by a chieftain, and when all seems lost, a drop pod hits the ground and a Spartan in Mark 7 armor emerges. It gives the girl a nod, saves her from some plasma shots, then jumps into battle, soon joined by 3 more Spartans. And while I have my issues with the use of Mark 7 here, the visuals for the energy shielding are gorgeous. The pods here are based on the Halo 2 version with a solid metal shell. The inside, as we saw in H2A, has a small display so the occupant can see outside. Now, I do have a bit of an issue with how slow these pods seem to be moving and how, well, underwhelming the impact itself is, but it's all pretty minor. Anyway, a plasma grenade goes off, or at least what looks like a plasma grenade goes off. It's spherical, but the fact it gives off this electric blast looks more like the electro grenade we see in Infinite, so that's a little odd. The girl hides behind a vehicle for cover, and when she emerges, she sees the Spartans victorious. And I have to give a little credit for the, albeit minor, variation in their looks. And don't worry, we will talk about the look of these Spartans in a bit. I definitely have some thoughts there. One of the Spartans reaches out to the girl and they escort her to safety. As they do, the camera focuses on a necklace around the girl's neck, which we see is printed on Spartan Agrina's armor. So this was Lorette Agrina's backstory we just witnessed, or at least a version of it. The symbol, interestingly, looks a lot like a bee. I'm not sure if it's been identified as such, but that would be a neat Easter egg if it is a bee. For those who might not know, an audio drama and ARG called I Love Bees was created to help market Halo 2. Now, why is that significant? I can't say just how significant it might be, but I Love Bees was where we first learned of the System Peril Distributed Reflex, or SPDR, spider. This system is normally an automated repair program for AI, but a modified version of it is present in Mjolnir Gen 3 systems to counter AI intrusion. The M15 Razorback also first appeared in I Love Bees. Maybe this necklace is yet another reference to that ARG. And as another quick parallel, many of the characters in I Love Bees were teens or young adults, much like young Agrina here. I can't help but wonder if 343 are planning to work I Love Bees into Agrina's backstory, or if it's just a coincidence that she has this bee icon, but either way, I'm all for it. So, that's the trailer. Let's talk inconsistencies. We have a Type 57 Phantom and a Banished Banshee, both exclusively post-war models, and the armor of the Gerald Hanai is very clearly Banished-inspired too. However, you'll notice none of these things have Banished colors. The Phantom and Banshee, well, the Phantom at least, the Banshee's hard to see, are in their typical purple, and the Gerald Hanai are in blue accented armors. While they're all carrying pulse carbines, we really don't have enough lore on that gun to say whether or not it should be present during the Battle of Earth in 2552, in some capacity. But, you may be asking, how do we know this is the Battle of Earth? Maybe this is a banished invasion of Earth sometime after Halo 5. Well, according to its description on YouTube, this trailer shows us, quote, a glimpse into the Academy Commander's own heroic journey, and notes that Commander Agrina knows firsthand the difference a Spartan can make. Taking these quotes and the bee necklace this young woman has, it seems to me only logical that this woman is a young Lorette Agrina. And if it is, this must take place in the not too recent past. Spartan augmentations may give you a few inches, or several in her case, but they're not going to age you. Certainly not like this. And again, if this is a young Agrina, it seems she went from what appears to be a civilian to a Spartan commander in, at max, 2 years, if that. I will admit, I'm wondering if perhaps she was part of a local resistance, which maybe got her noticed for the Spartan 4 program in general, but even if that was the case, it seems a stretch for her to go from resistance member to Spartan commander in such a short time frame. And I'm trying to give that time frame as much room as I can. Halo Infinite is set in May 2560, 2.5 years after Halo 5, so there's not a lot of wiggle room. So we may be looking at another Halo 4 prologue instance here. However, this trailer is more thematic, meant to get people hyped for playing as their own Spartan 4. So I don't find the reuse of assets all that egregious. That said, I do wish they could have chosen literally any of the Reach armors for these Spartans. That would have at least made more sense. To our knowledge, the designs that would become the baseline for Gen 3, the Keystone armor, weren't developed until well after the Human Covenant War. So, at least in my mind, there's no way to justify its presence here other than as symbolic. Now, all that said, there is one other option that comes to mind to explain this. Perhaps this young woman being rescued is Agrina's daughter, or relative in some form, rescued during the banished occupation or perhaps liberation of Earth. As you may recall from my breakdown of the Halo Infinite August development update, we did see some new campaign footage there very briefly. Some of this footage featured subtitles which read, "Thinking about other humans on Earth? Well, I wouldn't worry." Well, this is but one line and it could have any number of meanings. One possible interpretation is that the UNSC is planning, or have engaged in, a liberation of Earth, be that from the created or the banished. Maybe Agrina is one of the Spartans present. Maybe the liberation of Earth earns her an appointment to the Avery Johnson Academy, who knows? It's way too early to say anything definitively with this trailer in terms of story and lore. We simply don't know enough. If it turns out to be the Battle of Earth in 2552, or a liberation of Earth sometime around the current setting for Infinite, I'll be fine either way. I think the latter would be better, but both work. It's either those, or Halo Infinite multiplayer is set years after the campaign, which seems very unlikely to me. But at the end of the day, I think what we have here is a trailer retelling the story of Agrina's survival during the Battle of Earth thanks to Spartans. Who are these Spartans? Spartan 3s would be the most obvious answer, but ultimately it doesn't matter that much for now. Their purpose is to get people hyped for creating their own Spartan, and I'm fine with just that. Well, I'm mostly fine with that. I will always support a canon depiction of events rather than anything stylized if I can. Now then, as fun as all this is, the trailer, or rather the cinematic intro for Halo Infinite Multiplayer Season 1, does have some further implications. As noted, our multiplayer Spartan will be playing a vital active role in the Halo universe going forward. While we don't yet know what form that role will take, I can't help but wonder if subsequent seasons of Halo Infinite, hopefully featuring their own cinematic intros like this, will drive the story of our Spartan 4s for a time. Those are just my thoughts for now, though. I am hoping we'll get a Canon fodder soon that might dive into some of the questions brought up here, but that'll be for another day. For now, what did you think of this trailer? Did you enjoy it? Did you have issues? Do you have any lingering questions? Let me know in the comments below. Stick around for the Patreon shoutout, and until next time, this has been Halo Canon. First, I'd like to give a big thank you to our Harspice patrons. First there's Hope, then we have Freight, SS Deco-chan, Discombobulated Sycophant, Justin Montgomery, Ada Frame, and Man in the Dark. Thank you all for your amazing support of the channel. Next, I'd like to thank our theoretical patrons. If you'd like to see your name here or get a direct shout out, check out patreon.com/halocanon. You can simply support the channel or get additional benefits such as behind the scenes materials, including raw audio for upcoming videos, or even shoutouts like this. All patrons now get early access to certain videos as well, and more benefits are to come. However, your continued viewership is more than enough for me. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and maybe even subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you really enjoy my stuff, turn on that notification bell so you can be among the first to see new videos when they release. But for all my fellow Canonites, keep on being awesome.